Every time Keanu Reeves had a free evening, he liked to spend it just walking the streets of the city. It was his opportunity to remain invisible to the cameras, to find peace in the crowd, and enjoy life without the pressure of fame. One evening, when the sun had almost set, he was walking slowly along the road, reflecting on how challenging and interesting his day had been. But his thoughts were interrupted by unexpected sounds, the splashing of water and sounds that resembled the friction of a sponge on glass. Keanu looked to the side of the road and saw a boy. He was 12 or 13 years old, dressed in old but clean clothes. His shoes were worn and his hands were wet and stained with detergent. The boy was diligently washing the headlights of a parked car, carefully wiping each part to make them shine. His movements were steady but fast, as if he was afraid he wouldn't have time to finish the job. Keanu stopped a few meters away from the boy, watching his actions. He saw the boy finish the job, walk over to the driver who was waiting in the car, and get a few coins. The man behind the wheel didn't even say thank you. He just closed the window and drove away. The boy hid the money in his pocket, looked around quickly, as if looking for the next car, and drove on. This scene haunted Keanu. It was clear to him that this boy was not just making money for fun. There was a seriousness in his actions that is rarely seen in children of this age. His face, although young, had a shadow of fatigue and concentration that was clearly the result of a difficult life. Keanu decided that he had to understand more. After following the boy for a few blocks, he saw him stop at another car that had just parked. Again, the actions were similar: a quick and diligent wash of the headlights, a short conversation with the driver, and again a few coins. Keanu noticed that the drivers hardly paid any attention to the boy, as if he were part of the city's landscape. The boy had the money again and moved on. As Keanu watched him, he noticed that the boy did not look upset or annoyed. He was acting with a purpose, and that purposefulness was even more eye-catching. It seemed that he was not just making money. He was solving some important task for himself. This made Keanu wonder what could make a child work on the street after school hours. The boy completed a few more orders and then turned into a narrow alley. Keanu walked at a safe distance, trying not to attract attention. The alleyway led to a small residential neighborhood where the houses looked old and worn. The boy took out his keys and opened the door of one of the houses. He went inside, leaving the heavy metal door behind him. Keanu stood outside the house for a few more minutes, wondering if he should take the next step. He realized that interfering in someone else's life could be perceived ambiguously, but he couldn't just walk away and leave the situation unattended. He decided to find another way to learn more about the boy and his circumstances. The next day, Keanu visited a local school. He spoke to several teachers to see if they knew the boy. One of the teachers immediately remembered him. The student, according to the teacher, was quiet and diligent, but always looked tired. He often came without notebooks or materials necessary for studying. Unfortunately, some teachers, instead of helping him, mocked him in front of the class, calling his family's poverty a sign of laziness. Keanu felt angry and sad at the same time. He imagined how hard it was for the boy to come to school, knowing that he would be humiliated again in front of his peers. This explained why he was working after school. He was trying to earn money for something that was a common thing for other children. Keanu decided that he could not stand aside. He realized that he had to help the boy and his family, but he had to do it in a way that would not cause them any unnecessary shame or discomfort. This moment became a point of no return for Keanu. He felt that he had to make a difference in this boy's life, even if it took time and effort. Looking at life through the prism of such stories, Keanu realized that sometimes even a little help can change someone's fate forever. After Keanu learned the truth about the boy's circumstances, he began to develop a plan to help. But his first step was to figure out how to do it as discreetly as possible without drawing unwanted attention to the family. He wanted to act in a way that would not make the boy and his family feel ashamed or unduly pressured. Keanu decided to start small. He went back to the neighborhood where the boy lived and found a local store that seemed to be the main source of food for the residents. He spoke with the owner to learn more about the needs of the community. The store owner told him that many families in the area were facing financial difficulties, but no one wanted to talk openly about it. After learning more, Keanu took the first step. He opened a credit account at the store, which allowed the boy's family to buy groceries for free. But that was only the beginning. He decided that it was important to provide the boy with everything he needed for school because education was the key to his future. Keanu contacted several local office supply stores and arranged to purchase school supplies. He put together a kit that included notebooks, pens, pencils, a backpack, and even additional study materials. This set was transferred through the school principal, who made sure that the boy received it without any publicity. At the same time, Keanu decided to help improve the family's living conditions. He anonymously paid for the renovation of the house, providing it with a new roof, windows, and basic furniture. It was important to him that the family did not know who was behind the changes, so he worked with local contractors who were very careful to keep the details as private as possible. A few days after the home renovation began, Keanu noticed that the boy looked more confident outside. He continued to work, but his face no longer looked so exhausted. He started to socialize more with his peers, and his behavior changed. This was the first sign that the changes were beginning to bear fruit. However, Keanu realized that help alone was not enough. The boy needed support not only financially, but also emotionally. He decided to involve the local community in this process. Communicating with his neighbors, he organized several small events aimed at creating a friendly environment for children from the neighborhood. These included joint dinners, games, and educational activities that helped children interact with each other and gain new knowledge. One of these activities was the creation of a small club for children, where they could engage in creative activities, read books, and communicate with mentors. Keanu made sure that the club had everything it needed, from drawing materials to computers that allowed the children to learn about modern technology. He hired local teachers who agreed to teach the children several times a week. The boy, who initially looked lonely and isolated, began to actively participate in these activities. He found new friends and began to open up to people. Keanu noticed a change in his character. The boy became more confident. His eyes radiated hope. But the biggest achievement for Keanu was that the teachers at the school also began to change their attitude towards the boy. After the school management learned about his difficulties, a meeting was held at which it was decided to implement a support policy for children from low-income families. It was decided to create an aid fund that would provide students with everything they needed to study. A few weeks passed, and Keanu noticed how the boy had changed. He no longer watched car headlights on the street after school. Now he spent his time reading books, hanging out with friends, and even started participating in school competitions. His family also felt the change. The new house became a symbol of the beginning of a new life for them. Keanu remained at a distance, watching his small actions create a huge impact. He realized that this story was not only about helping one boy, but also about how small acts of kindness can change entire communities. He was happy to know that his intervention gave this boy a chance for a better future. After a few weeks of efforts to help the boy, Keanu Reeves saw his initial actions begin to bear fruit. But as he watched the positive changes, he realized that the help needed to have a long-term impact. Now it was important not only to support the boy, but also to create conditions for his development and independence. Keanu asked local business owners to join his initiative. He explained that many children, like this boy, face similar difficulties, and they can be solved through joint efforts. His charisma and reputation inspired many, and soon a foundation was established in the neighborhood to help children from low-income families. The foundation financed educational programs, provided children with necessary materials, and even supported families in difficult circumstances. One of the first steps the foundation took was to organize a series of educational seminars. At these events, children were taught financial literacy, the basics of computer technology, and even entrepreneurial skills. The boy Keanu helped became one of the most active participants. He was interested in everything that could help him achieve more in life. He was particularly interested in programming, and Keanu decided to provide him with individualized support in this area. Keanu knew how important it was to have a mentor to help you find your way. He invited the boy to meet with a young programmer who had achieved great success despite difficult childhood conditions. This meeting had a great impact on the boy. He realized that even in the most difficult conditions, you can succeed if you put in the effort and have faith in yourself. At the same time, Keanu started working on developing the creative abilities of children in the neighborhood. He organized masterclasses in drawing, acting, and music. A boy he supported began to participate in drama performances at the local cultural center. This helped him not only to develop new skills, but also to feel confident in his abilities. One of the main tasks for Keanu was to ensure stability for the boy's family. He contacted organizations that provided job search support. The boy's mother, who had previously worked several temporary jobs, got a permanent position at a local bakery. This allowed her to focus on a stable income and spend more time with her children. In addition, Keanu arranged for the installation of energy-efficient systems in the family's home, which significantly reduced their utility bills. The new conditions gave the family the opportunity to save money for the future and no longer worry about basic needs. Keanu's initiatives began to attract the attention of other residents of the neighborhood. People inspired by his actions began to create joint projects. For example, neighbors organized a fundraiser to create a playground that had never been in the neighborhood before. At this playground, children could not only play, but also learn new skills through various activities. Keanu also organized a holiday event for all the children in the neighborhood, during which they received gifts and had the opportunity to showcase their talents. A boy who used to wash headlights on the street gave a speech in which he thanked everyone for their support and shared his dream of becoming a programmer. His words were met with applause, and many in the audience felt proud to be a part of this story. A few months after the initiative began, Keanu saw real results. He was no longer working on the streets, his academic performance had improved significantly, and his family had gained stability. But most of all, the boy himself changed. He became confident, hopeful, and ready for new challenges. For Keanu, this story became another reminder of how important it is to help each other. His actions not only changed the fate of one child, but also inspired the whole community to change. He realized that even the smallest acts of kindness can have an incredible impact when other people join in. The last time he passed by the boy's house, Keanu saw him sitting on the porch with his laptop, working diligently on his first programming project. The boy noticed Keanu, raised his hand, and greeted him with a smile. For Keanu, this was the best confirmation that his efforts were not in vain. Some time passed, and the initiatives launched by Keanu Reeves began to bear significant fruit. But he had no intention of resting on his laurels. His goal was not just to help one boy, but to create an environment that would allow all children and families in the area to achieve their goals and dreams. Keanu decided to extend his support to other families in similar circumstances. He organized a series of meetings with residents of the neighborhood to discuss their needs and concerns. These meetings were an important step in developing trust between Keanu and the community. People began to share their stories, and each of them was unique, but united by a common thread: the struggle for a better life. After gathering information, Keanu created a program that provided grants to low-income families. These grants could be used for various needs: paying for school fees, purchasing necessary materials, or even covering medical expenses. Each application was reviewed individually to ensure that the aid went where it was needed. One of Keanu's key areas of focus has been improving the area's infrastructure. He initiated a project to restore a local school that was previously in a state of disrepair. The building received a new roof, modern classrooms equipped with computers, and a sports field. For many children, this was the first step towards quality education. In addition, several community centers were set up in the area where people could receive legal advice, medical care, or simply spend time with their families. The centers also organized free courses in various disciplines, from the basics of financial literacy to cooking. They became a place where people could find support and inspiration. Meanwhile, the boy whom Keanu supported from the very beginning continued to make progress. Thanks to his perseverance and new opportunities, he was able to win a programming contest organized by a local IT company. This victory brought him not only a prize, but also an internship, which became his first professional step. He also became an active participant in Keanu's initiatives. He helped younger children at school to learn computers and taught classes at a local club. His story has become an example for many other children, who now see that effort and support can change even the most difficult circumstances. One of Keanu's greatest accomplishments has been creating a sense of unity among the neighborhood. People who had previously lived in isolation and hardly communicated with each other began to unite for joint projects. They organized charity fairs, cultural events, and sports tournaments. All these events became a way to strengthen ties in the community. Keanu also invited well-known motivational speakers to give lectures to young people. Their speeches inspired teenagers to achieve their dreams and helped them find their way in life. One of these lectures, dedicated to overcoming the fear of failure, left a deep impression on many listeners and gave them confidence in their own abilities. Neighboring neighborhoods began to notice the changes that were taking place thanks to Keanu. His initiatives became a model for other communities, and many sought his advice. He started holding meetings with the city administration to share his experiences and offer ideas for improving other parts of the city. One such idea was to create a mentoring program for young people. Keanu suggested organizing a network of mentors who would work with teenagers and help them find their potential. This program received funding from the city and became one of the most successful projects. A few months later, Keanu returned to the neighborhood where it all began. He walked the familiar streets and saw how much had changed. People were smiling at him. Children were playing on the new playground, and the school had become a real center of education and culture. He stopped at the boys' house, which had now been transformed into a cozy home with bright flowers in the yard. The boy came out of the house, saw Keanu, and greeted him happily. His eyes radiated confidence and gratitude. This was the best confirmation that Keanu's efforts were not in vain. This story is a reminder of how one person, guided by kindness and determination, can change not only one life, but an entire community. Keanu knew that there was still a lot of work to be done, but he was ready to continue because he saw how his actions were creating new opportunities for people. Several months have passed since Keanu Reeves began his journey to help the boy and his community. What started as a desire to support one child has turned into a large-scale movement that has changed the lives of hundreds of people. But every story has an ending, and Keanu realized that his mission here was coming to an end. He had an important task ahead of him, to make sure that all the initiatives would remain sustainable even without his direct involvement. Keanu started by looking for local leaders who could continue his work. He invited active residents of the neighborhood to a series of meetings to discuss community development strategies. People who had previously had no opportunity to influence the life of their neighborhood now became the main drivers of change. Keanu created a committee that included educators, parents, entrepreneurs, and even teenagers. This committee was to manage funds, organize events, and provide support for those in need. One of Keanu's main goals was to ensure that the school he rebuilt would become a self-sustaining educational center. He organized a partnership with local businesses that took over funding for the school's programs. In addition, Keanu arranged with IT companies to provide the school with modern technology and periodic courses for students and teachers free of charge. Before his departure, Keanu attended the final event at the school, an open day during which children demonstrated their achievements. The boy who made all these changes presented his own project, a mobile application that helps children from poor families find educational resources. His confidence and ambition impressed everyone present, and Keanu felt proud of the boy who could now help others on his own. To consolidate his contribution to the community, Keanu launched a scholarship program for talented children. These scholarships were intended to provide access to higher education for those who had the potential but lacked the financial means. The first scholarship recipients were 3 students, each with their own unique story. They became examples for other children who now saw that dreams can become reality. In addition, Keanu left a lasting gift to the community, a fund that would support the development of infrastructure, education, and culture. The money he donated ensured the sustainability of all projects, and a transparent governance mechanism ensured that the funds would be used for their intended purpose. The day came when Keanu had to leave the neighborhood. He walked through the familiar streets, which now looked completely different. The formerly abandoned houses had been renovated, the playgrounds were filled with laughter, and the local school had become the center of community life. People he met greeted him with warm smiles and words of gratitude. But for Keanu, it wasn't about the recognition. His greatest reward was seeing how his actions inspired others. Before leaving the neighborhood, he stopped at the boy's house. The boy was waiting for him, holding a box containing a thank you note he had made himself. The boy thanked Keanu for everything he had done, but Keanu just smiled and said that the real change was the result of the whole community. This story is an example of how one person can change the world around them. For Keanu, this trip was not only an opportunity to help others, but also a reminder that kindness is the most powerful tool for change. As he left the neighborhood, he knew that the change he had started would live on in everyone who was a part of this story. Keanu got into his car, took one last look at the streets that were now full of life, and drove on. But his mission was not over. He knew that there were many more stories like this one ahead, waiting to be part of his journey.